Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello everyone, welcome to the show. So I'm Trevor Stockwell, and today, as well as having a great guest, Ian, who I'm going to introduce shortly, I also have a co-host with me, Peggie Kirkland. And Peggie also hosts her own podcast. So hi Peggie, do you want to just share a little bit about yourself and your podcast?
Thank you so much, Trevor, for the opportunity to be on the show today. And yes, I am, as Trevor said, I'm Peggie Kirkland, and I'm the executive producer and host of Mama's Motivational Messages podcast. And as you can hear from part of the title, the motivational part, my focus really is on inspiring and motivating Gen X women. So those are women in the age group between 45 and 60 to make a priority of themselves. As we know, when you're in that age group, you're on your way up the corporate ladder. You're trying to figure out how to get to the top spot. You're balancing that professional life with your family life. You're dealing with the children. You're dealing with all of the things that come up as part of our lives. And what happens as a result is that you put yourself on the back burner because everyone else becomes the focus. So my intention through this podcast is really to tell these women that they really need to acquaint everyone in their orbit with the concept that when they make themselves a priority, everyone else benefits. Because if women are taking care of their mental health, their physical health, their spiritual, their psychological, their social and professional and even financial health, everyone benefits. So that is my goal, and my mission is for women to prioritize self-care so that they can love themselves better. And I really started on this journey because I wanted to pay it forward to younger women. Did I just say that? Yes, as a recent retiree, I figured I have lots to share with others. And so it was a passion project. At least that's how it started.
Okay, no, great. Thanks for joining us today. So we've both got the opportunity to chat with Ian Moyse. Ian's a technology sales leader, and he helps business owners with branding, sales, communication, lots of different areas. But they're the three big areas, as every business owner knows, you have to get right. So lots of ways he can help us improve our business endeavours. He's well respected within the tech industry, and he's gained lots of accolades in sales and from speaking and also from blogging as well. Today, Ian's going to be sharing with both of us and with yourselves listening insights regarding communication and customer engagement. So welcome to the show, Ian Moyse.
Trevor. And yeah, it's an interesting time and interesting, Peggie, listening to what you're doing there, because I hadn't thought of it that way, the painful verbiage, but I got involved in doing things such as this because a couple of things. One is I learned from going through the process of engaging with people like yourself and putting yourself out there and taking part. But also I coach and train a lot of people. And I've always found that the more you give back, the more you contribute, more positivity and opportunity comes your way. It begats, what you give begats you opportunity. So I learned that a long time ago, that if you don't put yourself out there, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really good. Maybe just to kick us off, before we delve into talking about communication and conversations, more engagement, that side of it, Ian, just share a little bit about your background within business, because you started off as a programmer, didn't you? A whack.
Yeah, I did, interestingly. So I pivoted into sales early on, but my whole background was training in technology, learning how to program this side, and then I watched salespeople out there. In those days, with mobile phones, which were it was aspirational to own a mobile phone, for those who don't realise, because they were incredibly expensive. They were the size of a case to carry around. But I saw salespeople who had nice company car, all the perk, and naively at that point, my viewpoint was, well, I know what I'm talking about. How hard can that be? So I moved into sales to try and get the benefits quicker, knowing what I spoke about. And I've gone through a journey of inside sales, field sales, selling via channels, selling direct, managing teams, and I say managing, but as a word of choice, through to sales leadership, which is different, right? I've evolved over the years, pivoted through a different number of technologies, and I'm still learning. The important thing is, I always say to people, I'm not baked yet. I've got a lot of experience. I've had a lot of routes on my journey, but I'm employing youngsters today who they've got different opinions. They've been on a different journey. It may be shorter, but they've had a different journey. Therefore, they have value to contribute, and there's things I can learn from them.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, exactly. It's a lot of the time different is not wrong, is it? And it's easy to perceive that you're not like me, so you're obviously doing it wrong. It's like, no, that's a bit closed-minded, isn't it?
Often experience can be a blinker as well. Your experience and your habit will drive you down a path automatically that someone else with a fresher view could give you enlightenment or a different perspective that you just wouldn't have thought of. Right, I'll just get it done. I know what to do. I know the solution. I've done this 5 times before. It doesn't mean it's still right, because things around you have changed.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is a very nicely unscripted lead into customer engagement. So what are some of the things that you've seen that work, that people are doing, and some of the things which, make you cringe?
Well, the first thing I'd say is to realise that when I speak to audiences, we're getting back to that now, right, post-COVID, but when I speak to an audience, I'll ask them questions, hands up, so virtual hands up now from people listening, of, you are a customer. We're all customers of something, of someone. And I'll challenge people to say, well, do you buy and behave in the same way you did 10, 15 years ago? Do you as an individual do it? How many of you, before you even on a mobile phone today, on the app, you'll look at the star rating. It's a 59 cent app, and you'll look at the star rating and perhaps go, oh, it's only got 2 stars. Oh, well, maybe I'll read a couple of reviews, and you'll decide not to do it. How many of you are going to watch a movie, check out IMDb for reviews, or Amazon, you check out? So we've come into a world where we take opinion of other people. We behave differently as a buyer than we did before, right? I remember a day where, as a buyer in a sales engagement, the buyer would invite me in to meet with them and say, tell me about your company. And what you do, they'd know very little and have access to very little. I could control the message, and they wouldn't know what other people had said about you. They wouldn't know your reputation, unlikely. Now we all have access to immense information, 24/7, anywhere, anytime, any device. So you can find out about not just the company, but the person you're meeting. We as individuals on this call, Trevor, Peggy, me, we could all look at each other on LinkedIn, check each other out, see where that links, what have you got on Facebook, what you got on the internet. We could find out tons about each other without even speaking to the other individual. You mentioned it right there. Ian, you were a programmer. So you've checked my LinkedIn profile, look back. So, we're living in a different world, and we're living in a different world of expectation from the customer. Customers' expectation of service is set by what they now deal with. So if you think, or if you believe, as I do, most of the people you'll engage with will have used Amazon, will have used online Uber or Airbnb or whatever it is. They'll have this experience level set that, look how easy some of these companies make this stuff, and I can find things out, and I can deal with them quickly. I can transact incredibly quickly. I can, it's very smooth experience. But the problem for the average firm out there, those listening probably, is if that's the expectation level, where does that set you? Because when we don't all have the deep pockets of these large global organizations that have come from nowhere, we don't have their experience, their technology access. We can't build. Who else has built Amazon? Alibaba maybe, but you can aspire to do your best. Yeah. You can't aspire to be like one of these Goliaths who have access to resources far and beyond that you do. So you've got to think about, understand the customer from the outside in. How do you buy? How does the customer behave? What's the how do they want to engage with you? And how do you best service them within the framework that you're capable of doing, right? And let me give an example for that. How many organizations I have seen, so you said about mistakes, where they will open themselves up to what is the official name would be omni-channel. What I mean by that is they'll open themselves up and say, well, no, we allow our customers to engage with us via email, and we've got a web form, and they can Twitter and Facebook, and we've opened up all these channels. How many of us have at any point tried to complain to a company via your chosen channel? Let's say they've opened up Twitter, so you send them a direct message and you never get a response, right? Well, my view is, if you as an organization allow, whether it's a web form, whatever that communication method is, and you open that to your customer, you have to be responsive and serviceable on it.
Yeah.
They'll expect that. And if you can't, don't open the channels up, right? You don't have to be on every platform servicing customers in every way. Where is your customer most likely to expect you to be, that they want to deal with you, and open up limited channels to service and support your chosen customer profile, and do them well. Better to have 2 channels done well than 7 done poorly. And it's pretty basic, but so many companies, you'll see it on their website, there's every type of platform on there, WhatsApp, and come to us via anywhere. That's great. If you can service that, good on you, but most cannot do it.
Yeah.
Look at Amazon. They don't do that, right? Amazon's most common communication method is live chat.
Yeah.
You can't phone them. That's a choice they made, but they do very good on live chat. They don't want you to email them. They've limited down. This is the way you're going to deal with us, but when you do, boy, we're going to be fast and do a good job for you.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Yeah. So how would you say, kind of linked to that then, people that are listening saying, right, okay, yeah, I've spread myself too thin. I need to pull back and maybe just focus on 1 or 2 ways to engage with either my current customers or those I'm reaching out that hopefully will be a customer at some point. What are some of the things that, or how could we change or form our communication in a way that makes us accessible, that kind of sells that side of things, without trying to, apologize for all the things we haven't helped you, we didn't get back to you within a service level agreement or something like that. How could we use our communication to engage with the customers in the way that we've chosen, because we can manage that, but we also think we've done our homework, we think they can interact with us. What would that look like that kind of makes us unique or different from other organizations?
Well, if you think about what's the customer trying to achieve if they engage with you, it's an outcome of some type. Now, that outcome may be they can't solve something. There's a couple of things. One is, if you can provide a way they can self-serve, whether it's a product or service, the nature of the average customer today is they want to self-serve first. So if you make that easy, whether it be via YouTube videos that you link from your site, whether it be help guide, whatever's relevant to what you do, and they can self-serve and solve the problem quickly. A, find the solution, and B, it solves it quickly. How many of us haven't looked up how to fix a windscreen wiper on your car or something, or how do I clip this onto this device, or particularly with PCs, I'm not getting sound on my webcam, or whatever it be. How do I quickly fix that? Where do you typically turn to? It's Google. It's our friend Google. Quick search. If you get the answers quickly and self-serve, that's all you want. All you want is the outcome, right?
Yeah.
So often you don't want to necessarily speak to someone. The reason you end up needing to engage further is because you can't self-serve. Either the self-serve method hasn't resolved the problem or issue you've got, which sometimes it just won't, right? Sometimes you don't fit that, it's an edge case, or it's not there, or you cannot find it. Then you want to communicate with someone. And that leads into an interesting one. This is a debate I raise with a lot of people, is you use the word communication. There's two key words here, conversation and communication. And I witness when dealing with customers, whether it be new business, salespeople, whether it be customer service, support, whichever part of your business, if you open yourself up to, there's a need to have a conversation. I argue that Amazon gets away with doing a electronic conversation because they resource and fund the live chat very, very well, but most companies wouldn't achieve that.
Yeah.
But there's a difference, right? There's a difference between a conversation and a communication. So a conversation, in my aspect, is what we're doing now. You can hear what I'm saying live. You can interrupt me. You can see, even better with video. And we've all fallen into that with COVID, that we've gone one step further and videos become commonplace. But we can interact. Right? You can hear my tone of voice. You can gauge, is what Ian's saying, is he happy about it? Is he happy about my answer? Because if you said something to me, I said, Trevor, listen, you can immediately gauge, oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
But it's not the words I'm saying, because I could say, Trevor, I could say the same thing, but the tonality
Yeah.
And the expression gives you a clue, an instant clue as a human being, how to deal with something. If you take that onto, as I see often, things like email, you have no clue, right? It's very easy to become a keyboard warrior. So the number of times I've seen in different aspects, I'll hear a conversation, I'll talk to someone internally and say, how are you getting on with that prospective customer, for example, X, Y, Z? Yeah, have you spoken to them this week? Oh yeah, I chatted to them yesterday. And I've learned to, particularly with millennials and Z generation, not for any fault of theirs, but habitually they've grown into a different world with different terminology, to say, when you say chatted, you spoke with them. And the number of times I get, no, we exchanged 3 or 4 emails yesterday. Right, okay, now I understand. That's because I'd have thought chatted was a conversation. So in exchanging emails, there is, you're open to misinterpretation. You don't know the tonality of that from the customer. And a number of times I've seen people say, oh my gosh, we've had an angry customer. Okay, and yeah, they've emailed in and I'm just about to email back. And I've said, well, why don't you speak to them? Well, because they emailed in. So, right, is that the best way to deal with that engagement? Because what you're going to do, you're going to email back what you think they're asking for. Then you may get an email back because you've misinterpreted it, or you've given them what you thought was the answer, but they can't get the answer to work, but they don't know you've answered a different question. And you had 4 emails on a call. Guess what? On a call, you can build rapport. Yeah. Much quicker, much quicker. Not a relationship, but rapport leads to a relationship. You build rapport far quicker than on email. You can say things you wouldn't do. You can say, Trevor, I can hear you're angry there. I can hear your frustration. I'm going to do my best to help you. So let's talk through this. Let me understand the problem. The way I'm talking to you, how are you going to do that on email? Yeah. Right? Because you get everything in one go. So there are different places for different types of communication versus conversation. And that leads nicely into a thing I call changing the channel, which I mentioned then, is the number of people that say, well, I can't just phone them up. They emailed, okay, but could you not email them back saying, thank you, Trevor, thank you, Peggy, so much for communicating the challenge you're having. No one expects you to thank them for a problem, number one. The best way I can help you with this is to jump on a phone call. I have someone available in the next 10 minutes or at these times. It's 3 different times. Which would be most convenient for you? Is it urgent, or are you in the middle of something and we can speak back? Because I want to make sure we help you and get this resolution as quickly as possible. So you've not changed the channel forcibly or unexpectedly on the customer, but you've done it. You haven't answered or tried to get into it. You've just said, my action on this is to change the channel into a conversation. Particularly good for support, customer complaints, customer experience type stuff, right? And then you talk to them. Most people don't shout at another human being, but on a keyboard, boy, is it easy. Yeah. And for the Brits, I don't know, Peggy, your view on this, but for the Brits, if you're in a restaurant and the waiter comes over and says, how is everything? The number of people that say, I don't know, it's fine. As soon as they leave, hang on a minute, 2 minutes ago you were saying this was dreadful. Why don't you tell them? Because people avoid confrontation and avoid shouting at people. But what they'll do is go home and write a letter or an email to the restaurant afterwards saying how bad the meal was, because people don't like dealing with it. Like, it's the same as when you're in a car. It's how many people shout and beep and stuff. You don't do that when you're walking on the pavement. As soon as you can disseminate a human being to being more neutral, you're not really dealing with a human. It becomes really easy to behave differently.
Yeah.
So how do you go about convincing your new clients that the better approach is to engage in communication versus conversation with their clients if they wanted to improve their bottom line?
Well, normally I just talk them through this sort of thing because it's pretty common sense, right? Let me give an analogy. Do you believe you will get better engagement, better success with someone you have a relationship with than someone you don't? Right, because if you believe,
absolutely.
Right, so that's number one. You don't jump to a relationship. How do you get to it? Is rapport a step towards a relationship? Right. Well, it is. Yeah. Okay. So here's the analogy I give, the explanation I give to the people to think about. You've got a piggy bank in front of you, and every time you build a little bit of rapport, the more rapport you build with the customer, every time you're building rapport, you're putting coins in that piggy bank, and the more coins you build up in that piggy bank, the more you lead towards a relationship, and you can take more out, right? So if I'm going to ask you, whether it be a prospective customer and a challenging question, I want you to do something for me. I want to reevaluate the meeting we had and do whatever it is. I want some of your time or your investment into something. The more rapport I've built up, the more likely it is I can ask for that and get it, okay? Whereas if I've got no rapport with you, let me give you an example. On the street, you walk up to someone, Peggy, and you say to them, a bystander, you're just walking past it, oh, excuse me, sir, excuse me, have you got the time? And you do it friendly, nice friendly, excuse me, very politely, have you got the time? They're going to give you the time. You do the same and say, have you got $10? Excuse me, sir, you couldn't give me $10 to get home, could you? Get a very different reaction, right? Because what you're asking for is more than the rapport you've earned, right? You're asking for more back than you've put in that piggy bank to earn. You can't take more money out than you've put in. Pretty simple. And I just explain to people, and people get it. And I go, right, so as a salesperson engaging with a prospective customer, if you want to do 50 emails to build rapport up, you're getting a little bit every time. The coin's smaller. Every time you have a phone call with them, and if you do it with video, and if they're at home like we have been recently, and their kids are running in, you're building more rapport because you can have a conversation. Oh, God, how old's your son? Oh, I've got one that's 2 years younger. Oh, my God. Straight away, the rapport is building. And you start to people like them. You have a conversation that isn't just rigid, and etc. On email, it's very difficult to do that. I defy you to on email be able to say take it off piece to make it personal and engaging, because it's factual, it's business-like. Yeah. When I'm talking like this, I can ask like we did before the call. I said, Trevor, whereabouts are you in the UK? Oh my gosh, you're not far from me, and we start comparing notes. It's natural behaviour, and we start to build a bit of rapport. So the more you have, it doesn't mean everything should be a conversation, but think about whenever you're engaging with an existing client, whether it be support, customer service, renewal, or a new client, should this be better served for them and me in a conversation? If it's confirming the meeting, we just had a call and just confirming our next call at 3 o'clock next Tuesday, and here's the link. Communication's fine, right? That's what it's purposeful for. It works well. I'm not going to phone you up again and say, right, let me read the link out to you. But too many things, particularly during COVID, particularly during those who this has become habitual for, email is easy. I've done it myself, right? I'm not going to negate myself. I have to break my own habits. It is easy, and I go to do something and I start doing it and think, no, change the email to be, really got some good answers for you. Let's jump on a call when's convenient, as opposed to brain dump it all in there, send it to them, and then not get any natural feedback, not know whether they like the proposal, not know if they had any questions or misunderstood it. Then how many people get ghosted? Oh, I've been trying to get hold of them to get feedback. Well, does that mean they don't like it? Does it mean they're not busy? Yeah. You basically just removed the human engagement by choice.
So, Ian, that was quite interesting. I really enjoyed your conversation about communication versus conversation. I think about it and I wonder what kind of a sell that is. Is it a hard sell? Because as you yourself have acknowledged, people find it so much easier to communicate by email versus getting on a phone and talking. And I also wonder, in terms of dealing with smaller companies that have smaller budgets, a smaller staff, it could be just one or two people, what strategies do you offer these particular companies who really want to scale their businesses?
Sure. So let's focus on that question, because I think that's a big subject in itself, and we have limited minutes. But let's get it. So I've had the pleasure of working for 8 smaller companies now. 4 have exited, and I've been brought in to help them on their growth journey. And firstly, I don't have any magic wand or key, whatever. What I do is reusable, repurposable, and I've just learned how to tune it each time. So I've got better at this, hence it's repeatable. So two things I do. The first one I'll touch on very quickly, just to give context. The first thing I do is spend time assimilating what is there at the start. Okay, so I don't come in with this model and go, I just apply it regardless. I want to understand, the people that are there, whether they're, what we're dealing with, what the average customer looks like, what the momentum, how long does it take to onboard an average customer, what's the average size, is there a particular market we serve, why? Basic selling things is ask a ton of questions that are similar. I need to understand why we're at where we are now, right? Then I look at, okay, what are all the dials that can be moved? And the common dials are, what's the average deal value, okay? What's the average discount that we give, because you want to reduce it? What's the average length of customer contract agreement or tenure? You know, do they renew? Do you have a high churn of customers? What's the speed that we get quote to cash, meaning from first engagement with the customer through to when they're on board and we're billing them? What's that look like? So I look at all the different metrics. What are they today? And then I look for, okay, why are they what they are, and how can I move them? Because, for example, I don't come and say, well, look, your average deal value is 5,000. We'll move it to, let's try and get it to 90,000. Well, where's that coming from? What I'll look at is what are all those metrics? Okay, understanding the color around it in the business. Where do I think I can move them to over a reasonable period? And that isn't over 2 weeks. It often will be, as I'm doing the company I'm in now, I'll look at the metrics and then say, okay, from what I'm looking at, I've got a fair understanding. I've got a feel for, I think, what we can do. Let's set the first metric milestone at 6 months. And then let's have another one at a year. And where do I want all of those dials to be at that point? And what I'm looking for is marginal gains that the people in the business already there believe are achievable. Right, we're not there yet, so they haven't done it yet, but there's no point setting a mile high. There's no point saying we're going to climb this mountain. What? No. What I'm telling them is we're going to get to base camp. You can see, but it's still going to be a push, guys. But you can see it, right? And it's not very uphill, and we're not going to need oxygen, right? We can do this. And when we get to base camp, people get more belief of, well, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was. Do you want to go on, or should we go? No. We've got. So I want them to get somewhere. And what tends to happen again and again when I do this in companies is we'll say, look, we want to move the average deal value from, and I'm making these examples up, right, 5,000 to 9,000 in 6 months. We want to move the average time to close. It's currently 63 days. Let's try and get it to 58. Because if you move all the dials in a small way, they compound to a greater success. They're all achievable, marginal gains. We haven't said any one of them is, oh my gosh, I don't know how we're going to do it. And if we fail, they're all small gains. But if you're closing deals quicker, a higher deal value, you've reduced the discounting by a little bit, you've reduced your churn a little bit. In 6 months, the compounding effect means, hang on a minute, we're in a really good place here. And what you'll do through doing that is learn tuning effect. Then you'll get more confidence to say, well, we got it to 9,000 average deal value. Right, over the next 6 months, we're now going to go from 9 to 20. Really? Now, there's examples. It's got to be pertinent to the relevant business you're in, right? So I'm not saying every metric works for every business and every level of increase, but it's picking the key metrics and then identifying what gain is achievable with focus and effort and the right behaviors over a reasonably short period of time. What I've typically seen is when you go past that first milestone, you'll hit some and miss some. It's the nature of the beast, right? You'll get some of it right. Oh, well, actually, we didn't quite make the 58 close days. We ended up at 61. Okay, but we're still better than we were. Yeah. We've moved the dial. But the average deal value, my gosh, we didn't come in at 9,000, we came in at 12,500. Some of them you'll get better and some, but it sets the scene to humans, people. Why haven't we done this before? What else could we do? We're on a journey. So I lay out these miles and it works, right? I've done this. This is what I've been brought into companies again and again, different technologies, different market sectors. And the first important thing is assimilate, understand what you're dealing with, lay out the milestones. The number of businesses I've dealt with, which when you lay out all these different metrics, and you can go as far as you want, right? You can look at marketing wise, how many leads do we get inbound a month? How many social followers have we got? How many this. They're all metrics which you can put a number against and say, right, we want to do better at all of these 25 metrics. Yeah. A little bit better at all of them would be better, right? But most businesses I've engaged with at the start haven't actually captured the baseline they're at. If I say, well, what's your average deal? Oh, it's sort of this. And I've gone in and crunched the numbers and said, that's not your average deal value, right? What's your average closure time? Well, I think it's this. Guys, you don't know the numbers. Yeah. Get the numbers first, where you're starting from. Identify what is an appropriate gain that you could get over a reasonable period. Don't say over 5 years, because it's got to be something short where you can get a win. and you get people on that journey. And that's how I've done it again and again and again. So again, no rocket science. You just apply yourself on the basics and do them well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. There's so much in that, and it's celebrating the small wins on the journey, isn't it? Like you say, aim for something you can achieve. It starts to build momentum. People get more buy-in. Everyone gets excited because we can see growth and progress. Yeah, no, that's a lot of wisdom in that. For everybody listening, yeah, you must have lots of takeaways from here. Definitely make sure you grab one or two things that Ian shared in our time together, and make sure you put it into action. Definitely. Ian, just before we wrap this up, what's the best way for people to touch base with you, to find out more of what you do and get connected?
Sure, Trevor, thank you for that. And that's a whole other subject. That's a personal branding tip as a bonus at the end. If you go to ianmoyse.co.uk or ianmoyse.cloud, it will take you directly to my LinkedIn and Twitter account. So it saves you going and looking on there and finding me, etc. Those links will take you directly to those profiles. Okay, perfect. And there'll be links below. Wherever you're listening to this and you found this episode, there'll be links you can click through to Ian's site there. So, no, that's really good. Peggie, any closing comments just as we wrap this up?
Yes, well, I am taking away from this something to really think about, and that is that incremental growth compounds to greater success with focus and effort. So that's a big takeaway for me. So thank you for that. And thank you for the opportunity to be on the show, Trevor. It's been awesome.
It's great to have you with us, definitely. So thanks both. Just as we wrap this up, thanks both for your time and your input and everything that you've shared. There's lots that we can take from this and just make life, make business, make our relationships better. Lots of different ways outside of business as well. The relationship and the communication advice works, doesn't it? So I've got lots of value out of just a very short conversation. So thanks again for both of you for your time. We'll wrap this up for now. But as I say, for everybody listening, just make sure you take action with something that you've heard today, something that's resonated. Get in touch with Ian. Check out Peggie's podcast as well. However you want to take this forward, make sure you take action so you can grow and benefit from our time together. So thanks again, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.